Greetings and salutations. Not half pop pickers, all right. Out of Unit 1 into Unit 2. How about a little bit of Dave D, Dozy, Beaky, Mick, and you know who, all right. Don't forget your Brentford nylons. I'm Russ Kane. This is the Daily Show. This is my third or fourth espresso. And you know what, gang? They're not kicking in. Been a heavy old few days. A lot of work, a lot of stuff to do, a lot of excitement. You know him. You absolutely love him. I get so many nice comments about him. God knows why. It's only Neil Long.
Thank you very much indeed for your approbation and appreciation. Thank you very much.
I don't know what that means. What was the big word you used? What was that?
Approbation. I don't actually know what it means, but it kind of means approval, I think.
Oh, okay. You don't need my approval. That's the great thing about life. You know, it's fascinating. We've got a fantastic guest on today, but it's amazing you say that. We don't need other people's approval. It's one of the great myths. Screw it. Just don't keep seeking other people's approval. It's a big way to nowhere.
That is a big topic we could discuss.
Huge
for days.
It's a huge area. You know, so many people spend their lives running around, chasing their backsides, trying to get someone's approval. Who cares? Who cares? The only people you need approval from is your family, so they love you as much as you love them. That's it.
Are there too many shoulds?
Yeah.
In your life? I should do this. I should do that. I should do this. Well, some shoulds are good. I probably should drive on the left-hand side of the road. I probably should wear clothes before I go out. But apart from that, you know.
See, coming in from Houston, Texas, Julie Voice. Morning, chaps. It's too early for big words. You're not wrong, Jules.
Are we discombobulating you, Julie?
May I offer you my confibulations? What was that scene with Rowan Atkinson and the late Robbie Coltrane as Dr. Samuel Johnson? I think you'll find, sir, that I've written every word in the English language. Have you? Congratulations. And then he just completely messes with his head. Right, so it's lovely to have all our gang in from the United States of America, from Houston and Texas and the northeastern states in New York State. Right, this is a chap, I'm going to big him up, who has been incredibly supportive to men's radio station and women's radio station. He's been there since day one. He has a brain like a planet, and is also a very charming and delightful and very unassuming man. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Sleet.
Hello, Dave. Hello.
Good morning, gents. Good morning, world.
Good morning, sir. Good afternoon. How are you doing? Nice to meet you.
Finally, Neil.
You haven't met, have you?
No, only as words on a screen. Now I put a face to the voice. How you doing, buddy?
Today's a good day.
Explain what that means.
Okay, so I was diagnosed about 2 weeks ago with confirmation that there is a slight swelling behind my eye, probably in the lining of my brain. And that causes a huge amount of pain, huge complications that come along with that. And I'm going through the testing process to find out what the extent of that damage is, and all of the connotations that come along with it. And those tests are painful. They are exhausting. But today is a good day. Medication is doing what it's supposed to do. And I'm with you guys, and I'm really looking forward to having a chat.
Oh, you got to get out more, mate. You got to get out more, to be honest with you. Dave and I speak regularly on the phone, have long conversations, and I always come off feeling humbled. I'll be absolutely honest. I say this to his face, so I'm saying it now on air. I come away feeling humbled because whatever issues and problems I may be facing, I think, look at the way he deals with life. Look at what life has. You haven't explained why this has happened. You don't need to, but it's particularly galling. And I got furious on Dave's behalf, but he's so stoic, unlike me, and that's why you're so admirable. I'm honest. I'm in awe of the way that you deal with this. Just in awe of it.
I would not be able to deal with either what caused this, because it was a long time ago.
It was, but it wasn't your fault.
It wasn't my fault. I There's no secret in the fact that 30 years ago, I was attacked in the street. I was seriously injured. And due to the way circumstances were handled at the time, this injury wasn't picked up. And that is horrifying. It has all of the connotations that you can imagine come with it. But
if it was now, God forbid, but say you've been attacked in the street now, would they have picked this up quicker?
Yeah.
So without causing a offence or a lawsuit, was it because the medical situation was where it was 30 years ago, or was it negligence? You can answer carefully.
My gut instinct is it was simply a case of the presentation at the time was I was 100% fitter than I am now. So I was maintaining pain control myself. And because I was able to control the pain and I was shutting an awful lot of things down, a lot of things weren't being picked up.
Wow. Quick question Ian Oakley, what do you think guys think of medicinal cannabis? Ian, please watch our show, The ABC of CBD, which I produce and co-present with the great Ollie Mammon of the Tincture Club. In a nutshell, I think it's excellent, but we can't start discussing it now because that is an hour or 2 hours show all on its own. The ABC of CBD, you can look it up. There's nearly 100.
It's a big old field, and there's lots to learn in it. Just very quickly, what fascinates me about that is I think Israeli scientists discovered that we've got an inner system which is made for cannabis. I'm not making a case for
cannabinoid receptors.
Endocannabinoid system, So
correct.
For one reason or another, we're built for it. So
we are. But it's a whole thing, and one day we'll get Ollie back on the show and we just talk about it for an hour because it's gigantic. ECS, that's correct, Ian. ECS. Dave, back to you. So I want to keep the focus on you. It's taken ages for you to be well enough to come on the show. Let's talk about mental health. Before we start talking about Ayanay and all the work that you do, let's talk about you. How important is it to have PMA, positive mental attitude, when you're facing physical adversity?
I wouldn't be able to do what I do the way I do without PMA. I wouldn't be able to do it without a team of people that support that. Yeah. And for me, it's always been about having the right people around me delivering the right components that they naturally deliver, not trying to expect.
Could you expand on that last sentence?
Yeah, that's brilliantly said. Can you expand on that?
Yeah.
Okay, so as Russ explained, Russ and I can have massive long conversations, and Russ will walk away from those not feeling as though he's contributed anything to supporting me.
Correct.
But
I don't.
But every single conversation does just that, because it's a conversation that isn't about what I am necessarily facing. We can just have a conversation, a natural conversation, and that interaction itself is the dopamine that I need at that moment in time. And when you've got a team of people that you have that with, you've built your safety net. You know, it's why we developed the Yellow Heart Initiative, so that people can develop that network for themselves, rather than having professionals saying, you need X, you need Y, you need Z, and you need it from this particular person or this particular professional. When you've got your team of people doing the things that you need for you naturally, it fits so much easier and has that boost. That
I'm going to ask about how you would go about building that.
Can I just yes,
building that network?
Before Dave answers that, let me just jump in. You're far too kind. I always say at the end of our chats, Dave, I've done absolutely nothing. What I've done is listen to you and sort of gone at the end of the phone. That's what it feels like to me. And you always are very complimentary. It means a lot. because you're a very special fella. Right, back to Neil's excellent question. How do you go about...
Isn't it amazing that the people that contribute the most sometimes think they contribute the least? I'm throwing you a compliment here, Russ. I mean, setting up a whole radio station about men's mental health, that minor detail there, but I'll just let that...
we'll let that one slide, and that comes into one of the other things that
I've found recently for me in my personal life, being I suppose you could call it the ability to receive help, and when it's bespoke help from people that understand you and know exactly what you need, and it's mutually beneficial as well, as all true benefits are, that can be super nurturing. I once heard a very esteemed self-help author, Wayne Dyer, talk about AA meetings. I'm certainly not saying this is you, but he said he'd seen more, shall we say, love in those AA meetings than he'd ever seen in any church. And I often joked, sometimes people heal more in the pub than they do in the hospital, if you know what I mean. And I'm guessing that's kind of along the same lines.
Yeah. And if you think about all of the things, think about the last time you felt completely safe, completely comfortable, confident in yourself, and then break down those components.
I think I was 7.
I think
I was 7. Do you know, there's another question, and I come right back to you. I often think, when was the last time I was truly happy? Truly happy. I think I was 7. That was the last time I felt like no mild reverberations of, oh crap, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
I think it was about 7 or 8.
And for a lot of people, that will be the case. And when you drill down, and this is where working with a professional really comes into its own, because you can start to break down what were the component parts that created that sense in you as an individual. Once you know what those set component parts were, you can go, right, well, where do I recreate that sense with the people that are around me now? You understand who makes you laugh. You understand who makes you feel safe. You understand who gives you all of those component parts that create it. And then you can start to build that team.
And also, can I ask...
I love this.
Can I ask you, the flip side of that coin is, if you are surrounded by negativity and people who are wrong for you, although on the surface it looks they're right, but they're wrong, I think it drags you down to either, I'm not going to say their level, but it drags you down.
Yeah.
And I think it's very negative.
It's certainly more challenging to maintain a positive attitude, particularly if you feel that you don't fit into their norms.
Yeah.
If you like, but there's a big difference I'm learning between what's normal and what's natural. And what you are saying, a state of well-being, is according to things I've studied, is our natural state. It's odd to be out of it. We should be in it an awful lot more. Got a couple of things to share later, but I want to hear loads more about you, because I could break down those component parts. Pretty easily right now. If you ask me to do it, I will.
Okay.
But I'd probably rather hear about yours.
No, knock yourself out. Let's see what Dave has to say, because, I have nothing to say on it. Let's see. I mean, Dave, go and do it.
If you look at whatever those component parts are for anybody, and you can identify those traits with the people that are around you, and you're right, Russ. And Neil, when you've got those negative influences around you, they will drag you down. They become the really heavy anchor. And it's really easy to see that.
And you think, why am I putting up with this? Because when you analyze it in the cold light of day, are they bringing anything to your life? And you think, no, they're not. So why am I even listening to their nonsenses? It's their reality. It doesn't mean it's reality. It doesn't mean it's your reality. Let me read this for everybody on Deluxe Radio. Hi to Wimble. Dave Sleet, says Azadon Brown in Northeast United States. Absolutely. It's about finding someone who's worthy of our trust. And the most vulnerable parts of our person. Couldn't have put it better, Aza.
That is what I found very much so. I was in therapy a couple of years ago, and I'll always give her a shout out on the show because she's an amazing soul. Rosie Whetstone, her name is. And her philosophy is hold them, walk with them, release them. So,
Say that again. Say that again.
Hold them,
release.
Yeah, hold them,
walk with them, release them. So basically, when you go in there, you just need to feel like you're under someone's care, because at that point,
dangerous though. Are either of you? I'm going to start with Dave, then I'm asking Neil. Are you ever able to do that? Because I'm not. I don't trust anybody enough to say, "Oh yeah, I'm under your care." Well, obviously, if they're operating or if it's a surgeon, of course.
Yes, I did trust her. She's very, very trustworthy, and she operates in absolute integrity.
I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about us as people. Have you ever think, yeah, I'm just going to entrust them with my life? I don't. I can't do it.
I can deeply trust certain people. Yes, not that many. I like to be trusting. I tend to wear rose-tinted glasses sometimes. I like to trust, but there's about 4 or 5 people that I would truly, literally trust with, as Asa Don Brown puts it, the most vulnerable parts of my being. Because if you don't feel safe to express that, and this is the whole point of men's radio, isn't it? If you don't feel safe to express at least to somebody that will hold you in that holding space, like
or
Rosie.
Give a damn. Or just give a
damn. And Rosie's very clever because she slowly teaches you the skills and then walks with you while you learn them, and then releases you so it doesn't create an unhealthy dependency.
Yeah, that which is the American system. You know, they deconstruct you and you're left a wreck. That's why I didn't touch it when I lived over there. The good thing about MRS, well, especially the daily shows, it is daily therapy for Elizabeth Green in Manhattan. Because everything is about her, which makes me laugh.
Who I've been chatting to on text. Hello, Elizabeth.
Have you? She's an interesting woman. When you're a child, you trust. That is true. You don't know any better. You don't know. I didn't even see that. You don't know any better. Quite right. Could you be this, Neil? I'm so sorry.
When you're a child, you trust. You don't know any better. Took me a minute to learn after a horrible childhood. Well, when we're that age, we just naturally absorb the belief systems, the ideas of people around us, and eventually we can start to work our way out of that by, again, holding it up to the light of truth, I suppose. Is this true for everyone? Is it a universal truth? And 99.9% of the time, it's not. Otherwise, everyone would experience it all the time.
Yeah.
In every situation, and they don't. So it comes down to changing our inner territory, I suppose. But again, I want to know more about these component parts. What are yours, Dave? What are your I can say it, man to man, emotional needs? What do you need?
Yeah, so I need to be able to laugh. I need to be able to understand. I need to be able to trust, and I need to be able to believe the environment in which I'm in. That's it.
I didn't hear the last one. Believe in
the environment in which I'm in.
Right.
And that's
how do you what does that mean? I need to believe in the environment that I'm in.
Okay, so if I'm in a group of people who are presenting as positive, as friends, I need to believe that. I need to understand why that is. I need to trust that that's going to remain under pressure. And it's going to be able to cope with the things that I'm experiencing in my world. Because a lot of people will hear what I'm going through, throw their hands up and go, I can't deal with that, I'm out. And that's a point of their coping capacity. It's got nothing to do with what I'm coping at. And Asa, you're spot on. It's understanding that we all have different levels of connection, those different kind of conditions where we will engage with people. And not everybody that we come into contact with is going to know about our deepest, most vulnerable experiences.
Nor should they.
And exactly. And it's when we understand how interactions work and we can break those down, we can start to see where the right people are in the right circle of friendship, if you like.
And to be clear, this is not about networking. I want to make the distinction here. This is not about, I'm going to work with Fred Smith and Doreen Jones because they can get me to. That's entirely different. Those are commercial decisions. That's not about you as a person. It's not about your personal happiness. It might be about your wealth. It might be about building your business. It's entirely different.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I want to read this out because I didn't have the opportunity. This is from Don Brown in the States. We have different levels of friendship, and the most intimate of friendships are few, but are often the most significant. My most significant friendships are my weekly secret cigar trio. And everyone says, can we join? No, you can't. You're not joining us. Sorry. No, it is just me, Colin, and Ray. And it's got us through the last few years, certainly through lockdown, etc. It's very important to us. I thought it was just me, and I didn't like to say anything. And the fact is, it's very important to the three of us, which is, I find, deeply flattering.
And Russ, if I might, it's also protecting those boundaries of those friendships, because somebody else comes into that circle that shouldn't be there, and they can completely destroy
they'd F it up. And not just that, why are they there? Half of them, no, I would say a lot of them want to be there because they think, ooh, I can do something with Ray and get in the music business or improve my career, or I can get in with Colin and show him some shit script that I've written and he's going to produce it. No, that's why we don't want you there. It's about friendship on a very, very deep level. It is not about people trying to tag along.
I've got a friend, one of my most intimate friends, has this phrase, friends first. And it caused me to really re-examine what friendship really is, because I know it sounds strange. I'd forgotten. And I would break it down as having a safe space to be yourself, to almost, if you like, reveal your darkness, if you like, and still feel worthy of love. That's a big one, because sometimes people can reflect it back to us. And then we can feel worthy to love ourselves, because just to get a bit deep for a minute, if you like, love is not dependent on conditions. By its nature, it's unconditional, right? It either is or it isn't. But I love the way you and I completely agree with everything you say. We've all got these, whether we like to admit it or not, emotional needs, and you can see people try and fill them in the most unhealthy ways. And this is how people get addicted to things, and this is how people get themselves in situations they don't want to be in, or going from one partner to another. You could call it looking for love in all the wrong places. Yours is a much more healthy way, and I would say a way that certainly works. Certainly one of the most forward-thinking ones I've heard for a while, Dave. Very much so.
And don't get me wrong, this is not easy, and I still struggle with self-worth and self-value, because we do. We're humans. We are surrounded by all of those negativities.
And only sociopaths don't.
Yes.
I actually believe that. I've worked with some horrendous people, absolute sociopaths in the true sense of the word, and they have no self-doubt whatsoever. None at all. I'm not just talking about the person you think I'm talking about, Neil. I'm, back in the past, horrendous people, and they have no self-doubt.
Yeah,
because their moral compass is so skewed.
Well, if you think, use the compass analogy. If you put a magnet next to a compass, it's going to throw it out, right? And sociopaths see themselves as the ultimate magnet. So
I don't think so. I think they see themselves as the compass, and my way is true north. No, your way is because you're mad. You're a horrible human being, and
we're getting into narcissism and gaslighting a bit here.
That's it. They think they are the compass.
The thing is, though, one thing I would possibly beg to differ on, if I may, Russ, is I think these people do have deep doubt, and it's a very clever mask they've constructed, and it's very, very brittle. Yeah. If not, then why would narcissists be so sensitive? Why can they not take the most tiny bit of constructive criticism? Full of doubt.
I was on BBC on the Joe Good show, and
Joe Good. That's
I was discussing James Corden.
Oh yeah,
and we expanded it because I don't give a toss about James Corden at all. But why people, celebrities, or other people think they have the right to be rude and have no manners. and that's a whole different conversation. But it is the fact that, and the other guests will say, well, maybe they're very fragile, and it's a way of showing power. If you're rude, it's pathetic. And I won't do business with people if I'm invited out to a business meeting and there's lunch or dinner, and they're rude to the waiting staff, the waiters and waitresses. I won't do business with them because that tells me everything I need to know about them.
If you're happy and balanced and content in your own skin, there is no need to behave to anyone else that way. Hurt people. I'm not saying it justifies their behaviour, but it might explain it.
Well, screw 'em. Sorry. We're so, you know what? We're so, he's not willing. Screw him. You're a horrible human being. Go away. Then come back when you're nice, or don't come back. I don't care either way. Now, tell us about Ayanay while you're here.
Ayanay, my co-creation with Siobhan Crosby. Ayanay stands for torchbearers. It means torchbearers, mavericks, bringers of change. It's a word that's been around through human evolution for centuries, and it's meant different things in different.
What language is it, Dave?
It's been found in ancient Chinese. It's been found in Malawian. It's been found in the Aztec. It's been found all over the world. And each time it's had a similar theme to it: a torchbearer, a bringer of change, a teacher. They're all there trying to make things better. And in the world of mental health, we've had the best part of 40 years of being told what makes positive mental health. Well, I hate to differ, because if that was right, then we wouldn't be in a mental health crisis 40 years later.
Precisely.
So what Siobhan and I decided was to look at how can we recognize what creates positive mental health in a new way, and how can we support the professionals in a way that just hasn't been done before. Professionals traditionally have been seen as some kind of superhuman who can support everybody else, but they're exposed to exactly the same conditions as everybody else.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to keep everyone else going. But one of the biggest burnout industries in the UK is,
and it also creates a dependency culture. Rosie was very, in the most loving way, unattached. If she'd have got too emotionally involved, she wouldn't have been able to work, I would imagine. But this is literally about helping people to help themselves rather than creating a dependency. It how can I put it? It's maybe through the mirror of other people, or through a group of with people with loving intention, with a common goal. Our own innate strength, power, goodness, worthiness can be reflected back to us to find it in ourselves. But we can't shine it until we found it.
This means so much to me personally. This is from Michael Verby, who lives now, he's left Leeds, their loss, and he lives in southern Spain with Stacey, his sister. I've known them both since they were little kids. Michael's dad, Malcolm Verby, was my dad's best mate. Right? And Michael writes from Spain this: Russ, I can't imagine back in the day, Malcolm, that's Michael's dad, and Frank, that was my dad, having an intimate conversation about their feelings. Nah, ever.
No.
They may both have been better off had they done so. Oh, Michael, we could talk about this for a solid week. You have no idea how on the money that is. Anyway, there we are. So true.
Just picking up on that, it's not so much about being able to have intimate conversations. It's about self-awareness and getting past all of the stuff that has been given to us from a young age. Elizabeth earlier picked it up, that having a tough childhood, that loading up, if you imagine that, all of those bricks being thrown at you as a child, they bury you because you don't know how to build with those bricks.
No.
But when you have self-awareness, and it takes time and it takes work and it takes the kind of self-focus that a lot of people have been conditioned not to do, because if they do, then those bricks that are being thrown at them aren't going to have the same impact. So
it also takes I think it also takes bravery.
It does.
Because you're going against your natural feelings. And you're thinking, if I do this, my life will collapse like a bad souffle when you slam the oven door. That's one of the problems.
Let me take that about your natural feelings. As a child, your natural feelings are being shaped by everybody else. You are being groomed by those experiences. Intentional, unintentional is irrelevant. Because of your age and the way the brain works, your reactions to environment is being shaped. By the time you are 14, you have pretty much learned how you are going to cope with adolescence.
And people carry this through to sometimes their whole lives until something happens or they decide to become a bit introspective and begin this brave journey of extricating these beliefs. It all comes down to belief systems, doesn't it? It's belief systems. And I think it's no coincidence that belief systems could be abbreviated to BS, because a lot of the stuff we hold, doesn't serve us. And there's things we believe about ourselves, about other people, about the and
Can
they
I
do.
Just quickly read this out? You're absolutely right now. But I just want to read this out because he's gone to a lot of time and trouble. So let me let me just find it again. Oh, come on, Rosie. Right, there we go. Neil Long. It's all about you, Neil. This is from Asa Don Brown. I wholeheartedly agree. Narcissists have one of the highest rates of suicide. While narcissists and sociopaths have a similar makeup, they are different diagnoses. But they both have a need for approval, acceptance, and love. Yet it's often difficult getting to the core of that person,
because they're very, very defensive.
Long story short, avoid them like the plague.
Well, yeah, because otherwise they will suck you dry.
Oh God!
And if we take the idea that all of those negative experiences that are being thrown at us, think of each of those as a brick. We get buried under that pile of bricks, and the longer we're buried under it, the harder it is to get out. Number one. But also the more bricks we end up having to deal with, right? But when we can go through that process, we can understand what each of those bricks was, why it's there. We can learn what we can do with it. And this is where self-awareness really comes into its own. With the help of the right support system and the right networks, we can actually use those very same bricks and build our own castles.
I like that.
But
I like that a lot.
And this, Neil, is everything that Ayanay does with supporting the professionals so that they can support those that are going through that process.
Where do I sign up?
You fell at the first fence. When did you start it? When did you start it? When did you start it?
We started 3.5 years ago.
I thought it was way further back than that.
So Siobhan and I met at the end of 2017, and she was diagnosed with colon cancer about 3 months after we met. And it took her a few weeks to let me know. We hadn't set up a business. We just started to get to know each other. And my reaction when she told me was one that shocked her, because I just said, so what are we doing tomorrow? There was no, oh my God, there was no, oh, I'm so sorry, because she'd got the results from something that was already there the day before?
I'm not
She
following.
already
I'm
had
going to
it.
be on. I'm going to be honest. I don't. I'm not following that.
No, I'm so sorry. I'm not
You've
following
really
that.
lost
Can
me.
you mind-
Dan. You've really
So-
lost
I
me.
think there's a real nugget in here. Can you run that by us again?
Okay, so when somebody goes for a test, the test is taking a photograph of what's already in the system,
Right.
right? So when she went for the test, she already had cancer. She got the result weeks later, and she told me weeks after she got the result. So
think I see
I'd
what you're
known her with cancer. I just didn't know it. She didn't know it. The cancer was already there. So by going to so she already had it when we met. She already had it when she went for the test. Now she's just got confirmation that something that was there is there. I didn't need to go into the, oh my God, it's like this is all new, because it was
No,
already.
you didn't. But I'm so sorry. I get being I get being positive. I understand all of that. I wish I didn't, but I have far too much knowledge about the subject I wish I knew nothing about. But it wouldn't have hurt. I know it doesn't help.
Oh, she got
In
don't
the
get me
great
wrong,
scheme
she
of life,
got
it
all-
doesn't
she
matter.
got
But it
the
doesn't
sorry.
hurt to say I'm so sorry and be empathetic.
Hmm.
And having said that, and having marked that down in the ground, then move on.
Yeah. Well, I
think that's where
went the other way.
Neil's head's at. That's where my head's at.
Yeah.
I think I know what you're saying. Let me see if I understand this right, because I think there's a deep nugget here, and I think the penny will drop in the same person. Elizabeth, yeah, that's a nice way of putting it, Elizabeth. She was the same person. I once saw a friend of mine and asked how her partner was, and she said, "Oh, we died 2 years ago. We hadn't seen each other for a while." And I was like, "Oh," and I remember feeling very sad for her, but thinking it wasn't his death that made me sad, because if it was, I'd have felt sad on the day. When I didn't know, there was nothing to be sad about. Is that kind of what you're driving at?
Yeah.
I don't get that at all either.
Well, it wasn't.
Was he not the person who died, the partner? I'm assuming it's a he. Let's assume it's a he. I don't know. Making an assumption. Was he a friend of yours as well as
He
this other
was,
person?
but it wasn't the fact that he died that made me upset, because I didn't know that he died. It's only when I knew about it I got upset about it.
Well, obviously, because you're not psychic, obviously.
Yeah.
But I still don't get this. If I was sitting down, and I said, "How's Maureen?" and they went, "Oh, she died." I'd feel bloody stupid. I mean, that's just me. I'm not saying you. I would
How
feel
did this
really
dynamic play out for
embarrassed.
you? Dave? I'm sure there's a nugget here. So how did it play out from then on?
So Siobhan's reaction to me saying, "So what are we doing tomorrow?" was, "Thank God I'm not having to go through the emotional reaction to what is really tough." But I knew her. I knew how to manage that environment of not getting sucked into the, oh my God, it's terrible. She'd already had that for weeks. What she needed at that moment in time was reassurance that she was the same person in my eyes, that I wasn't going to change how I treated her. I wasn't going to go down the over emotional road. She'd had that with all of the people that she needed at that point. We went on, and we've developed Ayanay. Siobhan was the first person to read the manuscript for my psychological book. And that was a huge kind of ouch moment for me, because it's, how does all of this work? I'm just getting a message that says my battery's low. Give me a second. There we go.
Just getting a message saying McDonald's are on their way.
You've really made me think. I read a quote once by a favourite author of mine, and he says, let those lead that are let those with the least fear lead. And basically what he's saying by that is, the more connected you are to your well-being, the greater value you are to another. If you empty your cup, even in innocent concern about someone else, and I'm not saying this is easy to do, but then you just burn out and you haven't got anything to give anyone. Much more enlightened, I suppose, to be able to give the person what they need when they need it.
The oxygen on the airplane
in a reciprocal way. Yeah, put your own oxygen mask on before you. Exactly.
And that's why Ayanay created the Ethical and Psychological Awards, because if we don't start to recognize and celebrate the efforts that are being made to improve positive mental health in every walk of life, and just keep telling people what they should do, then we are going to keep repeating the same crisis. So the EMP Awards that APA launched 3 years ago don't have a criteria of what companies or charities or individuals or organizations have to do in order to receive an award. We simply say, let us know what it is that you're doing, and let the professionals look at that and go, that needs celebrating, that needs replicating, that needs passing out so other people can learn.
And then together we all become trailblazers. I was watching a video before I came on, and I think they quoted Einstein that you can't solve a problem with the same level of mind that created it.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. It takes a change of mind, or to take mind to a higher level, even if that gives you some distance between it.
What's the definition of insanity? To keep doing exactly the same thing and expect a different result. That's Einstein as well.
And, there's some great examples of really good, positive mental health contributions that, in the last 3 years, we've had some phenomenal winners of these awards. Absolutely phenomenal.
Care to share?
Okay, so we have financial institutions, financial planning company. We have an estate agents who put out amazing knowledge so people can enter the buying and selling of property, which, as most people will know, is one of the most stressful experiences people will go through. And they work to make sure that they reduce that pressure by understanding the process. So they understand that, they're not putting out a mental health video or a mental health podcast, but they're supporting positive mental health in the way they work. And
I think that ties into something else. That ties into something else as well, something really important. I think Bon Jovi summed it up with the song they made over lockdown, which was called "Do What You Can." And if you listen to the lyric of that song, it's quite—I don't know if it's a great song. Anyway, I love Bon Jovi anyway, but it was a really poignant song because I was talking to someone before I came on, and it was all she recently lost someone, and so we were talking about the grief process. And I lost my mum a couple of years ago, and it still catches me on a fairly regular occasion. But there was no help, the like of which you talk about. I often say that when someone dies, it's a learning curve at the time you least need it, because suddenly this grieving mind, this frightened mind, this small mind, which defaults into all the old patterns of security and safety, even when they don't work anymore, but to get out of it's freaking hard. Then has to learn all these complex legal terms, these complex, could be buying or selling property, for example, could be financial planning, could be all these things. And someone that really understands the situation, that we need so much more of that. So much more of that.
What we do need is
bloody right, it should be
a
celebrated.
complete overhaul of the education system, because most of the education system is, to use that phrase, unfit for purpose.
It's Victorian.
I never needed to, what did I have to do? Sines, cosines, logarithms, tangents. Jesus, I have never used it since I was 15 years old or 16 taking O-level maths, right? Never touched it again. There is so much stuff which is absolutely useless in the 21st century. Useless, pointless.
Well, one of the things that Siobhan and I are really, really proud of is our framework for positive mental health recommendations. And that framework covers recommendations for children's social care, education, youth engagement, crime reduction, and emotional well-being. 5 key contact points that every single human being in the UK will have contact with throughout their life.
Is that the symbols behind you? Those 5 symbols?
Okay, so behind me, I've got these are the membership categories.
Oh, I see.
For Ayanay and our benevolent fund. And again, the benevolent fund is the only fund of its kind in the UK that allows therapeutic professionals to reach out when they need it the most.
Because carers need care too. And actually, that's what I was saying. Do what you can. The financial situation. Let's say these wonderful people in the estate agents that put this information out there. If they'd have tried to do a job that they weren't good at, like, I don't know, nursing care, they're just not trained for that. They make good estate agent. That's a good estate agent. That it's, I can do more as a good presenter than I can as a crap carer, if you know what I mean.
But it's understanding as well, Neil. We all have a positive impact on mental health if we do what we can. And that's something that we wanted to recognise. One of the EMP awards went to a little radio station run by some weird, amazing mind. A guy called Russ Kane. I mean, you might have met him, but run, these 2 radio stations.
Don't get involved.
These 2 radio stations that focus on changing the way we engage with mental health. Changing the conversation from what we should do to what we can do.
Yeah. And
recognizing what we can do is something that Ayanay wanted to do with these awards. And by not giving a criteria that says jump through this hoop in order to be recognized. SeaWorld has stopped making dolphins jump through hoops. But the UK mental health system is still putting up a flaming ring.
Nicely put. And of course, if you do that, you'll get many people that just want the accolades without being able to particularly jump through the hoop to get it.
Exactly.
This is interesting coming in from Houston, Texas. When you're grieving, the one person who could help you through the process is the one who isn't there. Damn bloody right.
That's why we grieve.
And this is very true coming in from southern Spain. I love it. So international. I absolutely bloody love it.
Do you want me to do this one?
Do you want to read this, Neil?
Yeah, sure. Michael Verby, good afternoon. A friend of mine's husband was ill in hospital for 3 years. After a while, she'd only communicate with a small circle of people. She could no longer deal with constantly having to relive the trauma with well-wishers. Yes. Yeah.
And I mean,
that's another one.
This is not about me, but I've been there. It's freaking exhausting. People mean well. They do mean well. And you've got to accept that and embrace it and say thank you. But it is exhausting to regurgitate the same facts time and time and time again. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. It comes from a good place. Please don't misunderstand, but it's hard.
It really does. And this is where having that team of people around you that you don't have to regurgitate. You can just be in the moment for the moment's sake. And there was a comment I saw came up earlier about forgiveness and forgiving ourselves. I think it was from Elizabeth Green. It's so true that we focus on forgiveness as something that we give to other people.
It's not.
And it has to come from us. We have to be able to apologize to ourselves.
The best definition of forgiveness I've ever heard is enlightened self-interest. In other words, you're not doing it for the other person. It's the process of, I suppose, not holding other people responsible for your pain in the world. In other words, you have the power to let go, or whatever the process is, and move on. And they're essentially still not controlling you. All the time you've got someone to forgive, they're kind of still controlling you a little bit.
They are controlling you. They're living free of rent inside your head.
Exactly.
It's a phrase that I've seen in the last 6 months, and I really, are they winning? Well, I don't know. What, they're living free inside your head, free of charge, rent free.
Yeah,
Throw
exactly.
them out. Throw them
I
out.
remember this lovely quote. And it does, again, this all starts with the self, doesn't it? Because I think we're all so hard on ourselves, and I want to know what you think about this, Asa Don Brown, as well, actually. We're also very, very hard on ourselves. And yet it's also very true that if you hadn't condemned or judged, you wouldn't need to forgive. And that includes with ourselves. Forgiveness, in the way that most people understand it, is only for people that have judged or condemned in the first place. If you see what I mean.
No, you lost me again. Just do that. Break it down a little bit.
Okay, if you only need to, once my daughter, and it was nothing. It was a childhood, completely innocent mistake. Nothing at all. I
Was that the bank robbery incident? Was that the armed bank robbery incident?
What's that?
Was that the armed bank robbery incident?
No, it wasn't that.
It was a mistake. Could happen to anybody.
No, something as petty as spilling milk or something like that. And she said, "Do you forgive me?" And I went, "No." And she's like, "Why?" And I said, "I don't need to. I didn't judge you in the first place."
Oh, that's so sweet. And
So
then she went to live in Canada.
Yeah, I know.
I know.
And
crazy girl.
Say that to me. We're friends. I can say it to you.
I say to an awful lot of people that we have to understand the 3 A's: accept, acknowledge, and apologize to ourselves. When we can accept a situation, we can acknowledge what it is, and we can apologize to ourselves for our part in a situation, we can start to manage that situation in a better way.
Yes, I've heard this before in the psychological community. Shout out Asa Don Brown. They call it the acceptance paradox. You can't change anything until you accept it. And that makes sense, because if you're in a neutral mindset about it, rather than a sort of, I'm going to beat this into submission mindset, it just doesn't work. It just makes more things to worry about. But acceptance is a lot calmer.
Just before we kind of go on, and I want to make a special mention of Asa Don Brown. Asa Don Brown is not only a friend to APA. He is an EMP award winner in his own right. He is a phenomenal individual, and he's someone that has supported both Siobhan and myself separately and as part of the APA core team. So I want to say a massive thank you.
I don't want to rain on your parade, but you are missing, with Asa Don Brown, the most important thing, and I'm sorry to criticize you. He can wear a Stetson and look really cool. I'm just putting it out.
Yeah.
Just saying, he can wear a Stetson and not look like a prat. He looks great in a Stetson.
Well,
I don't think there's much more to life, really. That's it. I think if you can wear a Stetson and look good, I think you got it made. That's it. What else is there to learn?
Asa Don Brown, we need you on the show, man.
Do you know how many times we've reached out and he goes, "Yeah, I'm going to do it"? And I think he's very shy.
So if people want to learn more or want to contribute or be a part of this benevolent entity, how would they go about it, Dave?
Okay, so they can contact us through ayanay.co.uk.
And for those on Deluxe Radio, let me just spell it out. I'm just being pedantic. Ayanay. That's Horace Batchelor. No, forget. Ayanay. That's how you spell Ayanay.
Thanks for us. It's ana.co.uk. And go into the full site. You can spend days in there. It's all of the services are listed, all of the protocols, everything is there. But what we do differently to most organizations is say, come and have a conversation, come and speak to us. We make Thursdays open contact so that people can have time with the executive directly. They don't have to speak to an answer phone. They don't have to speak to a million people before they get to speak to Siobhan or I. They can speak to us directly every week.
What's your vision, your legacy that you're going to leave to the world as this grows and expands? What's your biggest vision?
Our biggest vision is that there is self-awareness and psychological resilience for everybody.
What do you define as self-awareness?
Understanding what allows us to get to a response in any situation. Avoiding the reaction and getting to a response. We will all get there over a period of time. But the more self-aware you are, the quicker you get to that response.
I understand. Do you know, I do understand that to some degree. When I studied NLP,
I'm a bit lost.
They were very well. This to clear it up. We can either, and I'm not saying I'm a master at this. I'm very good at talking the talk and explaining it, and I can articulate it so other people can understand it. Living it is somewhat different sometimes. But I heard the word responsibility. Okay, that's kind of got a heaviness to it. You know, it's normally fear-based. It's normally based on someone being punished for something. That person is responsible for this, being held to account, and it's all got a real heaviness about it. But if you put a hyphen in the middle, it becomes responsibility. In other words, you've got a greater map of the world to choose from, the mind that didn't create it, if you like, if we go back to Einstein's analogy, and therefore you have a bigger repertoire of responses. Therefore, it could be said that you are aware enough to have responsibility rather than another hyphen, reacting, re-acting, defaulting back to those old behaviors that probably didn't work in the first place. So you don't react something, you respond rather than react.
Yeah.
Fair?
And you know, I
told you I was good. Now someone just bloody teach me how to do it.
Physician, heal thyself.
It takes practice, and it takes focus, and it takes support, and it takes people to hold us accountable when we fall back into reactions. And for somebody to be able to say, you're reacting to this, you're not responding to it, get to the response. There's no blame. You're right. There is absolutely no blame for how we react to a situation. But if we
doesn't help. It doesn't help. If you're trying to move something along and all you're getting is emotion rather than action, it's useless.
Yeah, and I mean, also the word accountability has got a sort of heaviness to it. Again, it's that person's being held accountable, but studies also show that if someone has a friendly accountability partner, then people are more likely to succeed in their outcomes.
And that comes back to having that right team.
Full circle.
Right. Are you down in London?
I am in London. I have more tests in North London tomorrow. So yeah, I'm here having a roller coaster ride at the moment.
Only his mum could say, just saying I've got a dog that's going nuts whenever Dave is talking. And Asa says,
I have to say, Aston Brown says, thank you for briefly sharing your story and your journey. Two things. This is probably one of the most profound shows that I've done on here. This hour has whizzed by, and I feel so drawn to what you're saying. It's almost like it came into my experience at the right time, universe and all that sort of thing. I don't know, but this is really, really big stuff
He's
for
the
me.
top. I told you, Dave Sleet, top
Yeah,
bloke.
you were right, Russ.
Sue
You were
Sleet,
right.
top mum.
And the second thing, I wish you every love and goodwill with your healing journey, and I'm sure you'll find something that works for you. And we're all
that
behind you.
note, that's it. We're right out of time. Dave Sleet, Ayanay, you're a freaking legend. Thank you for everything you've done to support us. I really appreciate it. Neil will be back Monday. I will be back Friday. Dave, we wish you well. Till then, try and stay out of trouble. I know it's not easy, but give it a go. Bye.